below his waist, led him to Arizona.
He was in Arizona.
Yeah. He back.
He back.
2 seconds.
Things were not so good there.
I don't even. I know that y'all don't believe in this, but this part wasn't that way.
Well, that's what I tried to do several times.
I just want to read it, and if I have notes, I'll
This is
write them.
consent agenda.
We have to
restart
restart mine.
Well, even that.
That's just a
we'll
minute.
take
Oh,
that
I'm sorry.
X out.
Never
And
mind.
I'm, that's at the end of the last meeting of the month.
Something.
Oh, you're right. I just looked at
Okay.
it, sorry.
Try to
It's
do
just that.
something.
Damn, I thought I seen it on there. That was
No, you just saw that format probably.
Catherine, I knew
All right, here we go.
tonight.
It is 6 o'clock, Tuesday, September the 12th. I'd like to open this session of the Montgomery City Council at this time. Thank you for being here, those of you physically and those tuning in from the outside. We appreciate you taking an interest in our city. We'd like to ask that you silence your cell phones and any other that. If you join me in the invocation and the pledges to our flags. Heavenly Father, we do recognize schools and such, and keep us safe and healthy. And those who are sick, we ask you to nurse them back to health soon. And we ask your blessings on us as far as wisdom in proceeding forward. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
To the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
That's it too. I thought somebody else was gonna come too.
Okay, in the visitors, citizens forum, no one is signed up, is that correct?
You're going to do the proclamation.
Going to do the proclamation next. All right. I'll get it. Oops. Thank you. This is a proclamation during Constitution Week. Margaret Montgomery Chapter, National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Whereas the Daughters of the American Revolution are an organization with a deep and rich history with over 80 women members joining since it was founded over 125 years ago. And whereas the society pays homage to the law of our land, the Constitution, with 2023 being 2 years away from the nation's 250th anniversary since the signing of the Declaration of Independence and fighting the Revolutionary War to secure that independence. And whereas September 17 through 23 of 2023, the Daughters of the American Revolution and all of its chapters in Texas and throughout the country will celebrate and honor the Constitution by hosting events to commemorate the significant fabric and fundamental principles by which our nation is governed. And whereas the Constitution established 6 governing principles for society, these include popular sovereignty, the rule of law, federalism, judicial review, individual rights, and separation of powers through a system of checks and balances. And whereas Constitution Week provides an opportunity for all citizens of Montgomery, Texas, and the nation to Mayor of the City of Montgomery, Texas, do hereby proclaim September 17 through 23 of 2023 as Constitution Week in Montgomery, Texas.
I'm gonna see this white hair. Like, what's in the streets?
Thank you.
All right. Under
public hearing for the purpose of giving interested persons the right to appear to be heard regarding the following. Item 1, open the public hearing. It is 6:05, and the public hearing is open. Anyone here to address item 1? Can we close it at 6:05 and a half, or?
Did we read it? You gotta read it.
Well, read the, okay. Fiscal year 2024 tax rate, public hearing regarding the tax rate of be set as the tax rate for fiscal year 2024 as proposed by the governing body of the city of Montgomery. Okay? Anyone here to speak? All right. It is still 6:05. We are back into session. So, item 1, do I read that again?
You could have kept going, but yes, you now need to open up the public hearing.
So now we're public hearing. All right, so item 2, budget public hearing for the purpose of hearing public comments regarding the proposed fiscal year 2024 City of Montgomery annual budget. This budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $107,916, or 5.87%, and of that amount, $70,042 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year.
So I just want to be raised in taxes. This is a revenue increase based off of property values and new property added. This is not a tax increase.
Correct. Okay, do we take the motions to close, or we just ready to close?
Yeah, you close it.
Just need to state your closing
Yeah,
and what
you just
time.
close it.
All right, it is 6:07, and we are closed. Council Workshop 7/11/23. Letter B, City Council Workshop of 8/7/23. Letter C, City Council Regular Meeting 8/8/23. Letter D, City Council Workshop 8/11/23. Letter E, City Council Workshop 8/22/23. And letter F, City Council Regular Meeting 8/22/23. Questions?
I have a question. On page 20, that's in reference to consent agenda 3D, the council workshop 8/11, just, it talks about Mr. Palmer summarizing the council and staff that they pulled the $500,000 and keep the same tax rate to provide a merit increase or make any improvements the city needs to find a minimum. It reads up $200 to $300,000. Should it say $200,000 to $300,000?
200,000 up to 300,000.
Okay, it looks like to me $200, so I just wondered if we could just make sure that we have that correct in the minutes, that'd be great. Thanks.
On the minutes of August the 11th,
What page, Carol?
oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. I'm not there yet. It's page
It's on the
18.
18, okay.
I was not present at that workshop, and it shows that I was there.
Okay. I will edit that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Any others? Corrections, questions? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve items 3A through F with necessary revisions. Any motions?
So do we exclude D?
It's your choice. You can either approve all with me to make the edits, then you make that stated in your motion, or you can keep D out and I'll bring it back to the next meeting.
That's 2 issues on D, maybe.
I'll make a motion to approve A, B, C, and exclude D, and approve E and F.
I second.
We have a motion by Casey, second by Sarah. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. Any further questions? All in favor of approving items A, B, C, but not D, but also E and F as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no, and we will approve as stated. Consideration and possible action, item 4. Consideration and possible action regarding authorization of WGA to proceed with the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District permit amendment, including a hydrological report to be completed by Wet Rock Groundwater Services, LLC.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we have been discussing, we discussed yesterday in the workshop, the need for a permit amendment with Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. This is something that we've talked about for most of this year, the need of looking forward. So a couple of changes in Lone Star's process that I'd like to point out, because this is not something that you have seen before when we're doing a permit amendment. So until 2021, Lone Star operated on an annual permit. So at the end of each year, we would apply for the next year's permit. Doing any kind of amendment was a relatively simple process. It could be done in December. Not much paperwork went along with it. In 2021, Lone Star changed their rules in many factors. One of them was how they handle their permitting. So they went from an annual permit to a perpetual permit. So what that means is we don't have to apply for an annual renewal of our permit. However, they also changed the amendment process. So if you need to request an amendment to your permit, the first thing that they want to see is a hydrogeological report done by a hydrogeologist that shows how this increase in capacity will impact the aquifers. So that is what is in front of you. So this is a proposal that we received from Wet Rock Groundwater Services. They do a substantial amount of hydrogeological reports for Lone Star. They're very familiar with their requirements and exactly what they're looking for in the report. When they are doing this report, they will be looking at both your Jasper and your Catahoula aquifers as we look forward to an increase in potentially both of your permits moving into the future. So this will look at re-drilling well number 2, well number 3, well number 4, and a future well at water plant 4. So we're making sure that we get all of the city's future needs encompassed in this report. Every time you go back for a new well or another permit amendment, you have to redo your hydrogeological report. So with this one, we want to make sure that we get everything that the city is needing. Their proposal is for the lump sum amount of $25,000. We're proposing to route them through us as a subconsultant. We've worked with them many times before. We've never had any issues with them.
Okay, questions?
So as running it through you as a sub, basically as a sub, what does that do to the cost?
So per our contract with the city, there is a 10% markup on any subconsultant invoice that comes through us.
So why wouldn't we just go straight to them?
That's an option if the city would prefer to do that. But since we're handling the permit amendment out of WGA's office, we prefer as a method of simplicity to keep it all in-house. It gives us the ability to have all the records in one place and just keep it all moving forward. But ultimately, that's your decision how you choose to route
the
it.
records belong to the city no matter where they are, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So 10% less? Because you're going to charge us the same, on top of that, your normal fees for whatever it costs to do the permit, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, on the permit amendment, a lot of the work has already been done. So historically, permit amendments have been routed through your operator. We felt it would be best that this be moved over to WGA simply because of the potential transition in operators and the understanding that proposals were received for operations companies for the sake of keeping it all consistent. As we move through the amendment process, we proposed to move that over to a WGA function. We've done it for multiple clients, handled permit amendments for them. But again, most of the work has already been completed by H2O Innovation, so there is not much on the permit amendment for WGA to really handle except getting it across the finish line.
Right. So all you need is the the geological report, and then you can finish a permit.
Correct.
So all we have to do is call the company and say, hey, we need a hydrogeological report.
Correct.
So I think we can do that, huh, Dave?
You want us to do it, if you want staff to do it, we will.
I mean, it's $2,500 for a phone call.
Right, it is, certainly, no one on staff has the expertise to be able to, to look at that and review that, report to ensure that there's not, something missing, candidate these guys.
Well, I know, but if we're paying for a hydrogeological report, the report should be completed when we get it, right? That's what we paid for.
Should be.
And
I guess my point is if something goes haywire or takes a left turn and there's more effort, does staff have bandwidth to do whatever? I don't know. I'm just trying to foresee, I don't know what can happen because I don't know this business, but at the same time, if it gets to be a little bit out of control or it gets to be bigger or something
what we're
happens.
asking them to do is a report.
I understand.
A study
I
based
understand.
on the data that they already have,
I
right? Because
understand.
they're a hydrogeological company, so they have this data, they study it, and they're just going to give it to us.
Alan, what is your take on this?
Well, so I don't know what all goes into this either, but the advantage of having WGA handle it is that they not only just call and order the report, I would imagine that they interface with the hydrologist, probably provide data, probably communicate back and forth to ensure that the report that they get is the report they need.
Right, but isn't that part of the permitting process, which we're already paying for?
I want to clarify, it's not just as simple as me responding to their email and saying, okay, go ahead, and then I don't talk to them until the report is complete. That's,
Okay, so tell me what you have to do.
But that's what we're asking.
so it's a matter of us telling them, here's our demands, here's our, it's a very hard name to say sometimes. It gets all twisted up in the mouth. That's why you're hiring them, is because they are the hydrogeologists.
Exactly.
That's not my role. My role is your city engineer, and it's just like a surveyor runs through us. It's just like any other construction materials testing runs through us, because it's our job to be the expert for you, and it's our job to answer those questions on behalf of the city for staff serving in the city's best interests. That's the service that we provide.
Isn't it your job also, if there is a problem with it, that you assume the liability of any issues?
We do. So as a sub-consultant for us, we are responsible for wet rock. Should anything go wrong, they are covered under our master service agreement with the city.
I'm just trying to figure out what would go wrong for a report. We're not asking them to drill holes in the ground, build anything.
Something that could go wrong, inaccurate information if that were to come back, anything that, worst case scenario, a court case, that's of course worst case scenario and the risk is low, but we do assume that risk for the city, just as we do with any other sub-consultant that we hire.
Okay.
So it seems there's a level of security in keeping it in-house. Security, checks and balance and whatnot. If there was any error there, you're assuming that you should have caught that, right? If there was an error in report. And so we have that extra layer of protection going forward. I think that's where Sarah's going.
They're not going to catch an error in a report. They're not hydrologists, right? That's what we're paying $25,000 for. What I'm trying to understand is why we're paying another $2,500 for a report that literally anybody on the street can call them up on the phone and hire them.
It does seem high, I agree.
Again, ultimately, it's council's decision. If you'd rather this run through staff, or if you'd rather it run through WGA, that's ultimately your decision. Aside from how it gets routed, I would absolutely recommend proceeding with the proposal from Wet Rock.
Well, I don't understand what they're going to do for $25,000. Are they actually going to do something? Are they just going to write a report based on historical data? Or what are we getting for this amount of money? You know, they're actually going to go out and do some land take samples or whatever, or do anything physically? Or are they just going to give us some kind of report?
They do a site visit. It's not just a report, it's the analysis that goes into it as well. They study the aquifers and the different bands of where water is available versus clay layers, sand layers, et cetera. Then they look at what we're requesting, the capacity for each specific well location, not just in a broad generic aquifer level, but what are we needing at well 3 specifically? What are we needing at well 4 specifically? They look at the impact that that location has on the aquifer around it, making sure we're not going to collapse any layers, or that we're not going to threaten the aquifer by any means, that increasing the capacity of our well isn't going to jeopardize somebody's well down the street because of the impact on the aquifer. So they look at this from not just a microscope level for the city of Montgomery. What Lone Star requires is that they also look at it from an aquifer standpoint to make sure that our capacity isn't going to damage it.
Is this type of service something that a developer would have to do when they're doing a development?
If a developer is drilling their own well, then yes. But a developer in the city would not necessarily be responsible for this.
Okay, so it just has to do with basically the aquifers and the water, where it's coming from and how it's flowing in. It's a lot of money.
Seems to be necessary, though. All right, do we have a motion?
Dave, do we have anybody on staff that could read these reports with certainty?
No,
Yeah.
none of us are engineers. We can read it and tell if numbers add up, and we
Right.
can read it and follow the story, but in terms of, have I ever looked at one before? No. Typically that's going to be your city engineer that's doing that.
Okay.
But that's part of the permit, right? So the permit is, they get the report, they take the data from the report, they put it in the permit. We're not asking WGA to analyze the hydrology report. That's why we're hiring the hydrologist. They're going to do all the analyzation, provide that data for the permit. The state will then decide whether or not that data will allow us to increase our permit, or not the state, but the groundwater, Lone Star groundwater. But my whole question just come back to, do we need to subcontract out something that we can do ourselves? If all we need is a report, and all we need to do is provide that report, nobody's going to be reading it except for the state, or the board, excuse me. But there's nothing we can do, whether we like the results or not.
It's just
It is what it is, okay? So. But anyways, that was my question.
Without saying this, it's kind of like you're putting the liability on the city versus making WGA liable, right?
There is no liability.
I know, but, well, I don't know what could go wrong, because I don't know, but I mean, if something goes wrong, it's not on, that's what I'm just worried about, like, I don't know what I don't know, so I don't know, but at the same time, like, there is that.
I mean, to me,
Insurance, yeah,
it's just,
right.
you engineer, you do everything
You do that.
based off information. If the information's wrong, then you get into that, well, who should have caught whatever. It costs so darn much to drill a water well and everything else. I hate to quibble too much over a small amount relative to that, but again, it is a little painful to have a report cost that much. But again, it would seem that there would need to be somebody to make sure that it was done properly, reviewed. I don't know.
So this report will take care of concerning all of our future wells. We can have confidence to do the wells based on.
In order for Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District to allow you to drill a well.
Okay.
So what we wanted to capture in this report is a report that you'll be seeing every year. We will not be doing annual permit amendments if we can help it, unless something completely unforeseen happens. We're looking ahead at least 4 years for the city with this permit amendment request.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 4 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Sarah, second by Stan. The motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 4 as stated, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. We will approve item 4 as stated. Thank you, Catherine. Item 5, consideration possible action regarding proposal from WGA for the Buffalo Springs Drive roadway construction and traffic signal at State Highway 105 West and Buffalo Springs Drive projects.
So as y'all are all aware of the current standing between the city and Home Depot regarding the memorandum of understanding, they've had those conversations more directly with Home Depot than I have. What is before you is a proposal for the roadway improvements that is included as part of what's being discussed with Home Depot with the negotiations. So as y'all are aware, the signal design is being completed by TxDOT, but will not be bid or construction handled by TxDOT. So that is something that we feel as a city engineer that would be our role to handle, is bidding, construction management, bring it all the way through to completion. The other portion of that is the roadway improvements for Buffalo Springs, taking it from 105 to Home Depot's rear property line. That one of Home Depot's stipulations was that the road and signal are complete by the time that they're ready to open. This is something that we're more than well equipped to handle as far as completing the design. And so that is the proposal that is in front of you. One thing that I want to point out in our proposal is how the cost is split out. It looks a little bit more complicated than our normal proposals. And the reason for that is that the roadway and the traffic signal itself they're two separate projects. So there's a cost to prepare the plans and the specifications for the roadway. All we're getting from TxDOT are plans. We're not getting any kind of contract documents or bidding services from them. So it's all done separately, and the projects won't necessarily be timed at exactly the same time, which is why it's broken out the way that it is.
Those TxDOT plans have been 90% for months, right?
So I got an email today from one of the engineers of the state. Chris had reached out to him as well. They're close. They're about to provide 100% plans to us probably in the next week or two.
Okay.
Well, Catherine didn't mention it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about the roadway. Right now, this proposal is all the way to the end of the road. If we wanted to break that into pieces,
Wait, what? This is just to the back of their property?
This is just to the back of the
that's
property line.
all the way to the end of the property line,
Okay.
excuse me. If we wanted to break that into two pieces where we have the option to go to a certain point and stop instead of going all the way to the end, can we do that with this, or do we have to get it different?
Like I said, again, I'm going to give her this.
Yeah, if you want to,
exhibit,
yeah.
MOU. Is there a way, Catherine, to possibly alternate, add the last, portion of the roadway, as an alternate in our bidding documents when we bid the roadway?
So are you concerned about how construction costs will come in?
Right. So based on construction costs, we don't want to end up with a 380 agreement that lasts forever, right? So if we come in at a certain point, we're like, no, we don't want to go all that way. We want to be able to pay it off in this amount of time, and that takes us to this point.
Yes, we can do that. So what we can do is what we would do is design the full length, and then whenever we bid it, do the base bid up to that certain point, and then have the rest of it as an alternate.
Right, so
And
that
so
can be
depending on how
changed.
bids come in, council then gets to decide, do we want to just go up to X point, or do you want to take it all the way to the back of the property line?
Right.
We can do that.
Okay.
Is there a way to structure a 380 that would work, contingent on the total bid amount if we, I should probably give you time to think about that.
There is a way, you would have to make some decisions such as, what's your top dollar? I mean,
Not to exceed certain amount. right?
You put some caps in there, but you could do that.
And then to that point, I know that they're kicking back and forth with Caleb today on that 380 or on the MOU itself. How long, once it's completely, how long are we looking at before we can get it back to them so they have their lawyers, their week time worth of lawyers, so we can get it by the 26th? Because that's our deadline, right, on the paper.
Right. But
How long to write the 380 once they finally, everybody signs?
we're working to get it done this week,
Okay.
so Monday by Friday.
In talking with Home Depot, they use an outside legal team, and at least according to their engineer, that I talked to last week, said they typically take like 3 weeks to review it.
So what they told me today is they thought they could do it in a week,
Perfect.
right? Because I told them if we got to hurry, so do you. So.
Yeah. That works.
Any other questions?
So what is the grand total of this project? Did I miss it?
The construction or the engineering?
I want the grand total.
So if
The
you go on,
signal and the road, and I want.
How does that?
if you go to the last page of your packet, it's going to be the last page of your
Yes,
packet is a
yes.
page that looks like this. It's the yellow number at the bottom, $1,669,800.
And that's with estimated construction cost.
That's estimated construction cost, engineering, reimbursables, the signal.
10% contingency in there as well, so 245,000 of that is a contingency, on their estimate, so.
Yes.
And they're paying what amount?
750.
750.
So Home Depot will be issuing a deposit of $750. The rest would be wrapped into the 380 agreement. We would not, by our proposal, we wouldn't begin design until that deposit is received.
Right.
And so the remainder is getting paid by,
Home Depot.
The remainder is being paid,
Home Depot pays it up front, and then the city.
pays what up front?
For the total cost.
they'll pay the
1,000, that 1 million?
Yes.
They deposit a design amount, and then once they get the bids back, they deposit the construction amount. But of that total, they do not get the 750,000 back. They only get the estimated $674,000 back. Again, paid over a period of time based on their sales tax.
At 50%.
And they've seen this amount?
Yes, and I'll update the council, they have signed the MOU, the mayor has signed the MOU. I didn't want to send it back to Home Depot until after this meeting, but we're all in agreement to the basic outline, which again, when they deposit the design amount, that is what will trigger the work on the engineer side. And the draft of the 380 will be both to staff and to Home Depot by the end of the week.
How do we break this up?
And tell me about the 380 again?
So it's based on.
It's 5 years or 3 years?
Right now, the MOU outlines 5. There's been some conversations with Home Depot, which is, kind of leading into Casey's question about the total length of the amount. Home Depot would like to ensure that they don't run out of time. They're fine giving the city the $750,000. What they're asking for is a little bit of a hedge to ensure they get the remainder of the cost back. So whether that's through slightly less of a project or a slightly longer term, I think they're open either way. And to my mind, the city is as well. Our intent is to get a $750,000 contribution, 2 projects done that we are out no money up front for. And the 380 will only pay them back 50% of their sales tax from the sales of the store. So if it's 5 years, if it's a 7-year term, or if we chop, some of the project off to keep it within that 5 years, we've got the option to be able to do that.
So when they open their doors, that's when we're owing the money?
We would owe them, essentially on the
When
first
we-
anniversary date of their
Yeah,
store.
of their, okay.
Where's the engineering? Where's that, who's paying that? The 1.6?
That's for the total construct, or so that's for the design, that's for the engineering and for the construction of it. And Home Depot they are covering all of that cost. Again, the deposit that Home Depot will put up will be what covers the engineer's time for the design. So the city does not have anything on the engineering work for the project either.
It's at least a big, big start to what was concerning me all along, is the density and the weight that would put on that road. And it's a 1/3 of the way at least up the hill, and maybe we get some good fortune and can go further someday. And then the light to control that obvious traffic flow that it'll add there. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I wasn't at all pleased with 100% rebates and anything, but they came back with what I'd hoped to get at least to the back of the store. Maybe we can. Maybe we'll catch some breaks.
So it is back to my original question, breaking it up is not an issue.
Correct.
Okay.
We can bid it as an alternate and see
We've got some
how the numbers
flexibility
come
there
out.
that makes us feel better.
Yes.
All right, any other comments? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Casey, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Cheryl. Motion's debatable. Amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 5 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
All in favor, say no.
No?
And we have one no.
When would I see a copy of the 380 agreement?
You can circulate that amongst y'all as soon as we get it. We can start, looking at it. So, we don't have any meetings until the 26th.
Who signs that?
Ultimately, the mayor will be signing that. And that's only after the governing body votes.
So it's on the 26th agenda?
Right. That's the intent right now. If they can meet their timeline and everybody's in agreement with the terms of it, it'll be on the 26th.
And the EDC is not involved in
Not involved.
this 380 agreement?
Nope.
Not at all.
Okay.
And Catherine, my no is not toward WGA, it's toward the whole project, because I have met only one person that's for this, with the feedback from the constituents.
I understand your concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, executive session, do we have anything?
Not have anything on the agenda.
All right, council inquiry.
Big trash weekend was this weekend. I know there was stuff left outside the gates there, and can we get more? There's been a lot of chatter about people packing up their car on Sunday not knowing that it was closed, and then going there and frustrated. So is there a way that we could either get it out earlier? I don't know. I think that's probably going to be impossible, especially if you have it on your mind, you're going to go Sunday and then it's closed. But maybe get more trash cans, or it's hard to gauge, I get it, but it's not pretty seeing all that stuff sitting outside either.
I spoke with Mike on Saturday when he let us know that he was going to have to close it down early. He had mentioned at least getting some more for one of the coming weekends. So,
Okay, good.
If we're able to do that, we may look to y'all to help, spread the word as well.
Great, yep, that would be awesome, yep. And there was Mr. Tamburello came a while back, the Magnolia House, looking for the historical tax. Did that ever get taken care of? I don't think I ever heard any follow-up.
We did adopt.
We did, okay, I missed that, okay, just making sure.
So he was having to come back annually, and that's when we asked to change it, so once we passed it once, it was done.
It was good for,
And that's
it's
all.
evergreen?
He still has to fill a form out every year and take it to the county
Okay.
because of the way the historical exemption works. But once once the city approved it, then it's good as long as we have that.
And is it evergreen as long as he owns the house, or anybody can?
As long as anyone.
Okay, all right, good, that's good, okay, just curious. And Alan, Johnson Petrov, what role did Johnson Petrov play in the purchase of 213 Prairie? Were y'all an advisor, a broker?
No, we acted as the bond counsel for the financing of the property,
Okay.
preparing the notes, but that was it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any others? All right, just staff and council, just know I haven't given up on HGAC. In conversations with a lady there and that was at the Conroe, I think Gary was there as well, and it was very evident that they don't have our demographics right. And so if they think we're too wealthy to even look at, I think maybe they should leave April Sound and Walden Road out because we don't get their tax money. It's the beatingest thing I ever seen when Katie can get that money. And I know Katie ain't poor. I'm just saying. So my hope is that I can say, listen, high need. It doesn't all need to be what you call poverty. We have a high need here. We have a whole bunch of people trying to travel these roads, and they're getting worn out, and we need a look. But I will say this, Dave, and you know this too. I'm going to try, and after a while, you just don't have time to fool with them. It's like dealing with another TxDOT. It's a big old giant bureaucracy, and they just don't seem to be kind. But I am trying, and when I've reached my end and you don't see any more hair on my head, then you know I'm done with that. All right, motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
And it is 6:43, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
I didn't put it down.
This is somebody.